In 26 days, we will know for sure whether or not the SEC is going to appeal the Ripple SEC case. In this video, I want to update you guys with some of my thinking around this topic. We actually got some very interesting insight the other day in regards to whether or not the SEC has already made up their mind in appealing this case. In this video, I want to break that down as well as show you guys on the chart exactly what no appeal could do for the price of XRP. I believe we are right around the corner from the situation we've been waiting on for a very long time. Make sure to stick around for that. You are not going to want to miss it. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you ever need a place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange Uphold down in the description of this video. With that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So guys, I just want to start this video out with a quick announcement. I've been hearing this a lot recently, especially in regards to the morning live streams. People are not getting notified when I do go live. Just so everyone knows, I am going live every morning at 8:30 a.m. or at least every weekday morning. So if you are looking to tune into those live streams, just understand for whatever reason, people are not getting notified when I do go live. People are also not getting notified when I post a video. So it looks like in one way or another, I'm essentially quasi shadow banned. If you have noticed this, just do your part, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. These are the only way I know of to beat the shadow ban, because essentially it's going to push my channel to more people are going to subscribe, and then more people will essentially have me in their timeline and YouTube won't be able to censor it. So really appreciate everyone doing that. Obviously, there's really not much I can do other than to continue to push good content for you guys and continue to make these videos. So I'm going to do my part and would really appreciate anyone's help and just making sure that this gets pushed the algorithm as much as possible. I want to jump into the video though and talk about some of my updated thinking around an appeal, because we actually did get some very interesting information the other day around an appeal. And I just want to bring it forward to you guys because I think it's really going to help you understand that we're actually in a much better position here than I think many people think. Now, the first thing we need to understand, and this was actually stated by Jeremy Hogan, is that an appeal process is actually fairly quick and easy for the SEC. I was under the impression that the SEC needed to file some formal appeal, and therefore it would have made sense that the SEC would take most of the allotted time period to appeal this case, right? If they're going to be filing an appeal, they want to make sure it's as strong as possible, and you're not going to have a strong appeal in the matter of a couple of days. Well, it turns out that right now we're just waiting on the SEC to tell the judge whether or not they are requesting to appeal. So the SEC theoretically only has to submit a couple sentences to the judge to appeal this case. This lets me know that we're probably in a situation right now where the SEC actually hasn't made up their mind on whether or not to appeal. Like I said before, if the SEC needed to file some 60-page document breaking down all the reasons they want to appeal, obviously we wouldn't expect that to already have happened. But because the SEC only needs to file a couple quick sentences to Judge Torres saying that they wish to appeal the case, that's a completely different scenario. And it actually makes it a lot more likely that the reason that the SEC hasn't appealed yet is because they haven't made up their mind. Now, the good news is this kind of gets rid of a lot of the fears around the SEC simply having a vendetta against Ripple, and therefore they are going to appeal this case no matter what. Like I said before, if this was just about the SEC appealing the case to slow down Ripple, they could have done it already. It would have been fairly simple. But what I am noticing is it seems like the SEC is actually considering internally right now whether or not they should appeal this case. Now, the actual reasons for why the SEC might be discussing some of these things, that's up in the air. Obviously, we're not privy to any of it, but my best guess is they're really evaluating, is this the case we want to take to the Second Circuit? We have talked about this a lot on the channel. The SEC has other cases ongoing. Some of those other cases involve exchanges where the SEC is actually doing a lot better than they did against Ripple. And the way the court system works in the United States is higher level courts can create precedent over lower level courts. So if the SEC was to appeal the Ripple SEC case, well, that would bring the Ripple SEC case to a higher level court. And if they lost again there prior to some of these other court cases against exchanges, well, then a ruling in the Second Circuit against Ripple could actually really damage their other ongoing cases against exchanges. But if they look at some of their other cases now against exchanges as being stronger than their case against Ripple, then they might say, hey, we just want to let these exchange cases go through and then just forget about the case against Ripple, say we don't want to worry about this anymore, because in all likelihood, this is going to do more damage than any real possibility that it's going to be reversed at the Second Circuit. What we have heard from Jeremy Hogan and many other legal experts is that regarding all cases, less than 10% of all cases actually get reversed at the Second Circuit. Now, like I said, that is all cases, and what we know is this case is probably significantly weaker for the SEC than all cases, right? The SEC really won on almost nothing, and I highly doubt this is really the case that would go towards that higher 10% range. I would argue it's probably a lot lower than the typical case. Because of this, I actually think we're in a very good situation here where the SEC is essentially saying, hey, this probably isn't the case we want to bring forward. We don't want to damage our other cases, and our chances of winning on appeal are extremely small. I've also talked about even if the SEC was to appeal, they would never win at the Supreme Court level. So it just seems to me like there's better cases out there. And based on the fact that we haven't seen that appeal yet, it's likely that the SEC is considering these same exact things. Now, I will say, right, no one's a fortune teller here, and it could just be that the SEC hasn't got around to voting on the appeal yet. It could just be that they really just want to wait till the last minute to really throw a wrench at Ripple. I don't know if I necessarily believe any of those things. I think the first scenario that we just laid out is actually a lot more likely. With all that said, though, I do want to break down exactly what this means for the charts, because something very interesting is actually playing out. As I mentioned earlier in the video, we are 26 days away from finding out whether or not the SEC is going to appeal. The date for that actually happening is going to be October 7th. And what we can see is XRP is coiling up perfectly for that date. This is October 7th. We got a couple more candles to go. Just so happens to occur right at the end of this massive symmetrical triangle. We are waiting for a big breakout, and it looks like XRP is waiting for a decision from the judge to make this breakout happen. We're finding support right now at this legacy support line. So that is very good news. And we're really just waiting. Is the SEC going to forget about this case? And is XRP going to adjust accordingly based on the new clarity? I believe there is a very good likelihood this newfound clarity is going to usher in a lot of catalysts. I don't know if I know whether or not the SEC not appealing is enough of a catalyst to send the price ripping, or it's going to be something afterwards like a major institution saying, okay, now we can do an XRP ETF. Maybe it's Ripple saying, hey, now that this is over, we have intentions of IPOing someday in the future. I have no idea what it's going to be, but I think it's fairly obvious this price chart is coiled up, it's ready to go, and it's waiting on some kind of catalyst. Now, one of the things we absolutely need to happen, which I think is looking pretty good, is Bitcoin breaking out to a new all-time high. Historically, there's really never been a scenario in which XRP appreciated prior to Bitcoin making this new all-time high. Now, don't get me wrong, Bitcoin's sitting in a great spot right now. It's sitting right on top of its previous all-time high, and we're just waiting for that next move upward. If Bitcoin was to make a larger move to, say, 80, 75K, I think that would be enough to really make XRP make the move we've all been waiting. Picture this. What if over the next 26 days, we had Bitcoin starting to appreciate upward and starting to push towards a new all-time high? What could trigger that? Well, maybe rate cuts, maybe something in the macro economy. Who knows? Maybe an indication that Trump's going to win, and that could say, hey, digital assets are going to have a lot more leeway than they've had in administrations prior. Like I said, who knows? Something takes Bitcoin to its previous all-time high and then surpasses it. Well, if we take a look at what that would do to the Bitcoin to XRP price chart, we can see that this would likely take us back and down to this support region. But that's not really uncommon for XRP, because many times XRP has touched this bottom zone, went up, and then come back down to retouch it prior to taking off. Now, if Bitcoin over the next 26 days did move towards its all-time high, that would likely cause XRP to sell back down to this bottom level. But then imagine the scenario if after it touched this bottom level, we did have the Ripple SEC case have no appeal. That could be that catalyst to send XRP skyrocketing against Bitcoin. Maybe in the next couple weeks, Bitcoin has its moment, runs to new all-time highs, XRP lags back, stays within this symmetrical triangle. waiting for that news on whether the SEC doesn't appeal. The SEC doesn't appeal for the reasons we talked about earlier. XRP breaks out, and then this entire thing plays out exactly like we've been expecting. XRP appreciating massively against Bitcoin, just like it always does after touching this bottom region. I think the bigger question is does XRP just go from here? Do we get that news sooner than later? Or is it a situation in which XRP needs to come back down, retouch this bottom level before ultimately making its big run? What the important thing to note is 3 out of 3 times XRP has come down to this bottom level, it has made that big volatile move against Bitcoin. So I am fairly confident that Bitcoin will make a new all-time high and XRP will react accordingly. The order of the catalyst or the order of these things happening, that's a little bit more up in the air. Now, overall, I really do believe we are sitting in a very, very unique opportunity as the XRP community. And that's because as I've continued to watch the digital asset market play out, it seems to me like despite the fact that Ripple has been in this case against the SEC, no one's come close to being able to lap them. Ripple still has a massive advantage, I believe, on institutional adoption. The XRP ledger is still sitting perfectly in becoming one of the main chains to really dominate the future financial system. And despite the fact that we've had headwinds with regulators over the past couple of years, no one's really taken advantage of it. And in reality, despite the fact that Ripple has been the center of attention, no one's been able to do anything in the United States. So in the meantime, Ripple's been building out overseas. Everyone's been stifled in the US. But when the US market gets turned on, it's going to actually be the case that Ripple and XRP have more clarity than anyone else. And everyone else is still sitting in this position where they're like, okay, well, this hasn't been ruled on. Maybe court cases are still going on. For Ripple and XRP, that situation's going to be over. So to me, it actually looks really, really good where we sit right now. And while the rest of the market is still confused what's going on with Ripple, still confused about the Ripple SEC case, still confused about where XRP stands, the fact is we've really been correct this entire time in how the case would end up. And I think we're also going to be correct with how this market progresses in terms of XRP's newfound clarity. I think we're sitting in a very, very good position as we usher in institutional adoption. And based on everything I'm seeing from the large institutions, we are a lot closer to that event than these institutions would want to make you think. They don't want to make this stuff obvious to you. They want to do it in the background. They want to do it behind closed doors. But then when they're ready, I think it's safe to say the switch will be flipped. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. And for now, Mickle out.